All right, folks. Mind my level of madness on things. So let me get back into some teaching. Going to help y'all out a little bit here. I said I'd show you in the ways in which Father speaks. Some have an attribute. Telepathy is that of an attribute. And let me say, those of you that have a relation with the Father, or who He claims, you're going to find that you are created in some meaning. He encompasses so many different aspects, and you have a little bit of each, but you're going to find one in particular that that will more that you was made more dominant than the others in. As in me, it is power. So everything that all my tribulations, most of my trials come through a measure of strength. A person whose emotion, they feel a lot. Their trials, their tribulations will come through that of things that are like heartbreaking. A person who has obtained, guidance. Their trials and tribulations will come through chaoticness. And it is in that way the enemy tries to break you down. It does not try to break you down at your weakest point. It will try to break you at your strongest point, that you may give up and be discouraged. And just know that. So if that is, you find your finer part to you, then you know in which way your tribulations will come to you. All right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways. He's humorous. He's, knowledge, wisdom, so many things he encompasses. So just take a moment to find what it is particularly, in what way you were created. You have a touch of each, but might be one or two that you're more predominant in. All right, telepathy. Telepathy is that of an attribute. Me myself, just growing, a lot of times people think somebody's off. They feel like they use this term crazy to say that they can't understand. It is outside of their comprehension, so they came up with that term. And let me tell you, telepathy, that could be a sweet dream or a beautiful nightmare. Let me explain to you. And many of y'all will have children, and you're talking to them, and they seem like they hear you, but they're staring off somewhere. It's because they're hearing something else too, and it's really a big struggle in the adolescence years, especially going into young adulthood, because it really comes on strong at that time. During the childhood, it's there, but the children, so the pressures of life doesn't really amplify that. So what you find then, and let me just tell you something, those of you that might have it, because it took me a long time to figure out, you have things you hear will sound like it's God, and it's not. And this is how you know. I just give you a heads up. Father is going to talk things of a good decree. He'll talk things of peacefulness, prosperity, mindfulness, love, compassion, courage, time, wealth, love, ambition, fulfillment. He talks things of a wholesome nature. Now, when you find out you have this, your antenna is just blown wide open. So you receive all sorts of signals. And that is the confusing part, because you're trying to decipher which one is the one that you need to be listening to. And that took me a long time to figure out, because even some of them might sound good, but they're not. Listen to what it is that you're hearing. If it does not speak something wholesome or godly, do not talk to that anymore. Don't entertain it, because it will draw you. It is trying to draw you. When you start to entertain it, it'll twist it, and put it at a different angle. But what it's doing is really trying to break down your consciousness to a point of acceptance where you walk with this and this thing becomes the predominant force within your life. So when you if you hearing something and it doesn't speak something wholesome, stop talking to it. Stop playing with it. That is not of God. And through the process of doing that, they'll stop coming around because they'll realize it's not working. And eventually that will lead you to hear, because Father speaks to you too as well. But he's not going to talk over anyone. He's God. He doesn't have to. And he's not going to compete with anything else for your attention either. So just cut out anything that's not wholesome or godly, and it will only lead you to finally hear him as well. So that is one way to fine-tune your telepathy, that you might hear what you need to hear. Outside of that, I think that's relatively what that is right there. I'm not going to speak on the mental facilities. I'm not going to say they're not of use. That is another thing. Speaking of telepathy, when you start to dig into that, a lot of times you find people who get sick. You find them in mental wards. You find them walking around with Bibles, speaking of God all of a sudden. Yes, because they tuned in. But God is something you have to digest over time. If you try to open your mind and encompass all of him very quickly, it will drive you mad. You cannot absorb God overnight. And if you try to encompass that too quickly, you won't know your head from your butt. So those of you who have a sense, you find a strong inclination to go to the church, you feel as if God is talking to you, take that very slowly. Yes, that is a good thing, but you cannot encompass God overnight. It takes many, many years to even have a good sound understanding relation. Don't try to absorb so much. You're going to cause yourself a lot of damage in that way. Digging into Father's mind will blow your mind if you're not careful. All right. So in that note, I leave you with that. I figure while I'm here, I'll help out and I'll teach, and I hope it helps somebody along the way. All right. Y'all take care and be blessed. All right. Blessed be.